Hey everybody, welcome to our first edition of this cool little interview with an awesome school PR person. Peg, say hi.
Hey guys, how are you?
You have to have curly hair to be on this show.
Yeah.
It's going to rule out a lot of our guy friends, but anyways, really happy to have you join us, and just a little history behind why I wanted to start doing these interviews with amazing school PR people and school communicators like Peg is, oh my gosh, we are facing just an incredible time really in this world, and I see so much good. The way that schools have come together, the way that educators have had to lead, the way that parents have stepped up, the way that students are stepping up. I want to be able to shine a light on all of those things and connect us. And I, just so you know, 6 years ago when I started social media for schools, I run a company called Social School for EDU. Didn't know what I was doing, and I didn't even know, Peg, that school PR was a thing, right?
Yikes.
I did not even know, because I'm from a really small district. I graduated with 32 kids in my graduating class, and I'm up here kind of in the sticks in Wisconsin, which you might be able to tell from my accent. But I didn't even know school PR was a thing, and now I've met the most incredible people, Peg being one of them, and I just want to be able to shine a light. So we're going to kind of jump into this, Peg. Why don't you just kind of share your background a little bit with everybody?
Sure. And I'm so glad we're doing this. What a good way to start the morning, right?
Yeah.
So you didn't know about school PR? I did, because back in the day, I worked for a newspaper, like so many of us in this job. And when I started, I was a general assignment reporter. So covering, city council meetings and zoning board meetings and plan commissions.
Sounds
Woo!
exciting.
Shapes our community, but a little dull. But then, thank God, I had an editor back in the day, and she made me an education reporter. Oh, it was beautiful. So I was an education reporter for a while, and then I became an editor and was in journalism for many, many years, but then switched gears, and now I am in my 16th year doing school PR for Glenbard Township High School District 87 outside Chicago.
And how big is your district? And can you kind of explain how it's set up?
Sure. We're in suburban Chicago. We're about 20 miles west of the city, and we have 4 high schools. Illinois is a little different depending where folks are watching this. Illinois has K-12 districts, high school districts, and K-8 districts. Glenbard District 87, we've got 8,100 kids in 4 high schools. Yeah.
8,100.
It's a beautiful thing. But we are the 3rd largest high school district in the state of Illinois.
So 4 different high schools, but it's all in the same district, and it's 8,100 students. Like, yeah, I get really big eyes, because again, we have, in my little community in Wisconsin, we have 300 kids K through 12. So 300 kids, 1 building. So you have 4 different campuses, I'm assuming.
Right.
Are some of them rivals too? Like,
some of them have over the years have shared conferences, athletic conferences and such. But I love it when the kids all come together for various things, whether it's performing arts, service projects, or whatever. And while we do have a lot of kids, I'll tell you what, just in the Chicago metropolitan area, I have colleagues in other districts where they have, 20,000, and there's one district in the northwest suburbs with, I think it's 50 campuses. I mean, there's just colossal, right?
yeah.
And in other states, I know Texas and elsewhere, California, they have huge metropolitan. So I love Glenbard. I'll stick with 8,100.
Yeah, I know. I always talk to people, and they're like, well, we have a really small district. We're only about 5,000 students. And to me, that's just gigantic. But now, like, I'm doing some coaching for social media with Santa Ana Unified. They're like 55,000 students in California. So yeah, really been exposed to that. But I just think it's cool, because you guys, she has 8,100 students. For all those schools that are much, much smaller, like, hey, we don't have it that bad. And Peg's going to describe a little bit of kind of her role, because I know 16 years in school PR, Peg, things have changed a little bit since 2004, right?
Just a wee bit, yes.
Like,
it's amazing when I look back when it started, and back then I thought I was busy.
Yes, and even though some things make things easier, right? But, it's also a lot of things to learn. So social media wasn't even on the table
Right.
back in 2004. And now, of course, it's become an integral part, which is my focus. And we're going to talk a little bit about that. But can you also describe, because you are a representative on the NSPRA board, that's the National School Public Relations Association, where I've connected with a lot of folks via Twitter first, and then I actually got to meet them in real life, and hopefully we'll be seeing each other this summer. Still, our fingers are crossed. But can you just describe your role with NSPRA?
Sure. Thanks for the recognition on that. I am in the third year of a 3-year term on the NSPRA Executive Board. So NSPRA has a variety of vice presidents for different regions, and I'm the vice president of the North Central region.
So the North Central is made up of what states?
It includes areas such as Iowa, Wisconsin, Minnesota, North Dakota, Manitoba. So it's not limited to America.
Okay.
North America. But it's great because you talk about meeting people through national seminar and through serving on the board, meeting more and more school PR professionals. And one of the things I just love about both NSPRA, the national group, and INSPRA, wow, I didn't even say it represents Illinois, but Illinois too.
Yeah.
INSPRA is the Illinois chapter. The generosity of school PR professionals, the networking is unlike anything I'm aware of in other industries.
No.
So serving on the national board has just helped that grow for me, which it's amazing. And I joke that when I was first thinking about joining or running for the NSPRA board, the board meets in Maryland twice a year, and then it meets a third time at the national seminar, whatever city that's in. And so I joke that, yeah, I signed up for something, a volunteer opportunity that involves more meetings and an airplane ride. It's like, but you know what? They're the best meetings, and it's the best use of my time. It's so valuable. It's amazing.
Yeah.
I encourage anybody who's an NSPRA member going forward, if ever there's somebody who taps you on the shoulder and says, hey, you ought to run, listen to them. Or be the one who taps on somebody else's shoulder and encourage them. Hey, you ought to run. It really, really is a valuable opportunity.
Yeah, and our friend Tracy Jens, who I think she's a self-declared kind of introvert, one of the best in the business, right? And how she's been able to come alive. So service to others, I think you said it exactly right. I don't think I've ever known a more giving group of people, especially among right now. Like in these last 6 weeks, we have just been like rapid fire with all of the school shutdowns and the communications. And I don't know how you guys are doing it. I'm just watching in awe. Yeah. But everybody's sharing. So it's just like, you don't have to recreate the wheel. Everybody's there. And it's not like, hey, we're charging you, or, you know, it's just everybody gives and all of us are in this together.
Right.
And I really love that.
Yeah, and it's not limited to the current situation we're all facing. I mean, you mentioned Tracy Jens. Man, I hope she sees this, because that girl's a rock star. She really is. Last year at the NSPRA seminar, she shared her crisis communication plan. I believe it's 56 pages long.
Yeah.
And she just gave it to people, both at the session that she led and then on Twitter afterwards. Who does that?
Right.
I mean, school PR pros do it, and she's one of the ace school PR pros. And there's countless others like her, but the generosity of somebody spending so much time on a project, whatever it might be, and then genuinely, lovingly giving it to others and saying, well, here's what we did. You know, this might be helpful to you. Yes, it is. It's tremendously helpful.
She shared that same presentation, because I love to go to NSPRA. I find the best of the best presentations, and then I bring them back. I have a community that I share. I do some webinars nationally, and then all the recordings live. And can you believe in February, she gave that crisis. And you know how much she had a little template for COVID-19, because she's like, this might be an issue. So I just spent 2 hours and I've kind of got this draft. And again, then she offered that up to other people. And so I think that's amazing. So when we talk about, you know, obviously school PR is a big job no matter when. And I totally love and believe in this role. But can you describe like what you have been going through over this last 6 weeks? The other day when we were talking, and I'm like, you got to be on the show. You gave me a really good analogy. So I'd love for you just to kind of describe what you've been going through.
Would this be the fire hose?
Yes, exactly.
So I've said it to many people that when this started a few weeks ago, and for any people who grew up in the era of watching MASH, when we had to bug out, when we had to leave our offices on March 13th without knowing when we'd be back, that's when it all started. And from March 13th going forward, for about 2 weeks, I said I felt like I was drinking from a fire hose. It was just, exactly, we both did at the same time. It was just, everything's coming at you and you'd get whiplash. It kept changing because we'd have a plan and then there'd be an announcement from the state. And then I was like, all right, pivot, right? All the words we're hearing: pivot, nimble, flexible, adapt, right? That's what all school people are doing, no matter what the role, but most definitely school PR professionals. So yeah, in the beginning, it was drinking from a fire hose. And then, I'd get texts from family members of, hey, are you working from home? How's it? I'm like, I don't have time. Like, just leave me alone. Right. So that was the beginning. So for 2 weeks, I think everybody was feeling that. And then we kind of got into a rhythm because the announcements from the state eased up. And then I said, well, I went from drinking from a fire hose to drinking from a garden hose, because it was still coming, but it was more controlled. Right. So that was like in the 3rd week. Since then, it's eased up a bit more, and now I say I'm drinking from the faucet. So we've got fire hose, garden hose, faucet. But it's about to change again, because here in Illinois, we anticipate that our governor, like so many others, likely will announce closure of schools through the end of the school year. We expect that announcement this week, and we're recording this on Thursday, so it's either today or tomorrow. That's the word on the street. So, but we're just like everybody else, right? Everybody's gone through this or will soon.
So can you describe a little bit, because I know all schools were dealing with that. You had a plan laid out, you probably had communication started, and then all of a sudden there's a press conference that you are listening to at the same exact time as all of your staff members, all of your parents, all of your students are listening to it. And as soon as it gets over, they're like, what are you doing? Why did you say you're doing this? And so how did you handle all of that?
Well, first, it just reminds me, and your gesture perfectly depicts it. You know that meme that you see on Twitter all the time of the cat at the keyboard? And he's just, that's pretty much how we did it. But the great advantage that we had going into it, because when the word was coming that it was March 13th, and that was a Friday the 13th, any coincidence?
Yes.
That this was what was going to play out. The wonderful advantage that we are very, very fortunate in Glenbard District 87, we have been a one-to-one iPad district for several years.
Right.
And I recognize that not everybody has been in such a wonderful position. And I credit, my goodness, the tremendous work other districts are doing to move to distributing Chromebooks or iPads or whatever the device might be. But in our district, we happen to have been doing that for several years. So we've been using iPads as the learning tool. All students, all staff are provided with iPads. And we use Schoology as our learning management system. Okay. So our kids and our staff are very familiar with both. And that was just a godsend. Because to say you're going to be staying home by order of the governor, but you have these devices and you already use Schoology as the workflow, that was just huge. So, but it was providing that information to our students and staff and the families and reassuring them, we got this, we really do, and we can make this work and it's going to work well. So it was just communicating that. But still, it's one thing to do, you're sitting in a classroom with dozens of other students and everybody pulls out their iPad and they're working on whatever, and the teacher's right in front of you. That's one thing. Now you're at home and we don't know everybody's home situation. Right. And that's an evolving situation as unemployment is growing. Yes. And families' health issues were growing. So that's an ongoing area to be addressed and ongoing needs. But in terms of getting the information out there, we have an e-learning plan, which here in Illinois and in our area, we have regional offices of education. And the Regional Office of Education approved our e-learning plan. So we could say with confidence, we've got a plan, here's what it is, and we did an FAQ and provided the structures that kids would use. And it just kept rolling out. In the beginning, I'll be honest, the number of emails from students and staff alike, it was just back to the cat on the keyboard.
Yeah.
But once everybody got into the rhythm, it's working well. We're very, very fortunate.
Yeah, and I'm just amazed. So many of you know I've got 6 kids. So I have a blended family of 6. One's in college, and then I've got a senior. I got 2 freshmen, not twins, my husband's son, and then my daughter, 7th grader and a 6th grader. I am so thankful. They're all 1-to-1 from their schools. And so they were kind of used to that, but I'm also thankful that my youngest is in 6th grade because she's pretty self-directed. I just have a lot of compassion for anybody that has kids at home that are 5th grade or younger, and especially those little kids. I just can't imagine. So shifting a little bit, to some of this communication and then social media, because I feel, and I've seen, reminder that we do social media management at Social School for EDU for 90 different school districts across state lines. So many of them are here in Wisconsin and Minnesota, but then they're in other states too. So things were changing. Ohio kind of made, we've got several schools there. They made decisions earlier to close down schools. And so just dealing with all of that, it was very evident that social media now is elevated in regards to how we're using it for communication. So can you just describe how you've integrated that maybe early on and then now with what you're putting out there?
Sure. So for social media, our district is on, as a district, we're on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
I'm just showing you.
Oh, there you go. You threw me there for a second.
Yeah.
So that's on a district level, but then our 4 high schools have countless Twitter and Instagram accounts.
Yeah.
Our high schools do not have their own Facebook. We keep just a district Facebook. And because, Andrea, I've been following you for so many years, I like what, it's true, man, I've learned so much. I like what you've said about Facebook as a place to celebrate your students and your staff and your community. So that's what we do there. I will be honest, I have not used our social media as much for COVID specific information, and here's why. Now, again, remember my background as a former reporter. I do a daily, pretty much every day, e-newsletter, and it goes to our students, our staff, and our parents.
Okay.
That's where we've been pushing out all the COVID related information, including, the CDC's recommendations and links to them, and our information about, here's the link to the e-learning FAQ for students. Here's information about our grab and go meals, things like that.
Yep.
Have all been pushed out in our e-newsletter. And that's something that's been around for many, many years.
So they're used to getting that every day.
Yes, that's the cadence. Yes. And it's funny because, and we'll come back to the social media aspect too, but with the e-newsletter, which a colleague in Innsbruck told me about many, many years ago, and I've used it ever since, parents will email me and say, could you include this in the daily e-newsletter? Like, they don't even call it by its name. They call it the daily e-newsletter. I'm like,
Great.
Well, no guarantees that it's daily, but yes, I will. So with that foundation that's been there for years, that is the trusted source of information. So we have tried more to use our social media to celebrate. And you had it up showing, a couple examples of like teachers sending supportive video messages, or highlighting one of our teachers. We have an art teacher who made the face mask shields.
Is this it?
Yeah. She is an art teacher in our high school, and her husband is a professor at a local college, and they used materials at the college with college permission to make those face shields. And then while they were waiting for the shields to print on a 3D printer, they handmade masks, which she is wearing. So touting things like that on social media. And yeah, the video shout outs, things like that. The videos from the staff have had the most traction.
Right.
And yeah, like there's a coach of the year given the thumbs up. He's basketball coach of the year. Has absolutely nothing to do with COVID,
Right.
but everybody loves him.
Yeah.
So of course I want to get that out there.
Right.
You know?
And I just want to steer you back too, also to, you did exactly right. I think direct communication with your COVID-19 and the response, that is always the first place, because social media, while it's kind of, it's nice to have and you can get it out to a lot of people, it's not guaranteed because of the
Right.
Facebook algorithms. Make sure that not, even though on your Facebook page, I saw you had over 5,000 fans, 5,539. Just because you post something doesn't mean it reaches all those people. So you have to have that direct communication. And hopefully this is one thing that came out of this. If you have a lapse in that in your district or school, that now is the time, or, coming off of this is where you're going to have to fix that. And I just love that you have some ideas there. And then right up my alley, celebrate, social media is all about celebrating. We want to celebrate our students. We want to connect those stories to our community. It looks a little bit different now because we're not in one building, but if we can get those stories from our staff, if eventually we can get stories from our students, we can get that out there and it can make a big difference. And, 161 likes and loves. I don't know if you know how many people this reached, but I bet it reached a lot because it had some shares, some comments.
Right.
So that's really, really powerful. And guess what? Video doesn't have to be professionally done. We're not professionally doing this right now, right? You were talking about, you had to have the light, so you got a little glare over. You kind of got a halo there, Peg. You got a halo going, and that's okay because it's authentic and it's these conversations, and your community needs to hear from your leaders, and I just love to see people kind of stepping out, maybe out of their own comfort zone, and being able to just communicate, because nothing is as authentic as being able to communicate through video right now. I mean, in person is really good too, but so that's awesome. Those are really some good, unique ways. You just described one other thing the other day that I thought was cool that we should share with people, and that's when we do get back to being able to be in person, all these ways that either as leaders that we connect with our students. I mean, there's all these relationships that happen online and offline. Can you share what your superintendent does with, by the way, remember, 8,100 students in the district. Can you share that?
Sure. So David Larson is our superintendent, and he's fantastic. He's wonderful. He came to us as an experienced superintendent. He used to work in Michigan, and prior to that in Florida, and prior to that, Singapore. Wow. Yeah, he has a very interesting background. It's wonderful. So in his previous district, he started something that he brought to us, and that is a note card that he sends to any student who is written up in the local newspaper for doing something good. So for example, the sports section, right? We are covered by a variety of local daily and weekly newspapers. Again, we're in suburban Chicago, so it's a good media market. So if your son was written up in the local paper because he's on the basketball team, and there's a picture of him taking a shot and it gives the stats for him, we have a team of people, and I got to emphasize it's a team. So across the 4 high schools, there's one person in each school. Maybe it's a receptionist, maybe it's the principal's secretary, who goes through the newspaper every day and looks for these items. And they see the picture. We'll use your son as an example. Here's your son's picture. So they cut it out. They look him up in Power School to get his mailing address, and they add it to a spreadsheet that's kept every week. And the spreadsheet has the student's name, address, and the reason for the recognition. So it would say basketball picture or whatever. And they compile a spreadsheet for a week, whatever comes through all the different papers. Then they send it to my assistant. I have a wonderful assistant named Jerica. Jerica works part-time, a couple days a week, and among other tasks, she processes these spreadsheets, one from each high school. So she takes the spreadsheet, creates a mailing label, gets the note card, tucks in, and they attach the article, tucks in the article, gets a stack of them, and gives them to the superintendent to sign. God love him. He doesn't just sign them. Every one of them, he writes a little note in there. Way to go, Bill. Great shot. Proud of you. Whatever he says. puts it together, puts it through the mail machine, postage machine, and sends it out. It is labor intensive, I'll admit, and it's not perhaps everybody's first priority, but it's important because it's that connection from, as I always say, he's the CEO of our school district.
Right.
He's reaching out to the kids and the parents. And I often say that perhaps it's the parents who like that more because maybe they're the one keeping the keepsake box or whatever.
Right.
But it was interesting at 2 different school board meetings. Our school board, like so many others, will recognize students who rank in the top 3 in state in whatever it is, music performance, athletics, whatever, top 3 in state. You come before the school board, you get a certificate in public recognition. 2 separate meetings like that, I was standing near the superintendent and I heard a kid say to him, "You sent me that card, thank you so much, that was pretty cool." And what I've told people whenever I tell this story is, it wasn't like mom or dad was nudging them and saying, "Go thank Dr. Larson." No, you could tell it was genuine coming from the student. They were impressed that he took the time to do that. Now I'll admit right now that's kind of on hold because we can't get to the postage machine and we don't have access to the cards and stuff.
Right.
But as a tip for anybody going forward, yeah, it's a bit involved, and again, depending on the size of your district, but it's a low cost way to do it. And the note card, we copied the style that he used at his previous district, and it has a little design on the front with some stars and a couple other images, and it says, "Always great to see our rising stars doing well," or something like that.
Can you share, do you have that somewhere that you could send it? So then we can put it down in the comments so people could see it?
Yeah, I'll look for it. Yeah.
That'd be awesome. Just because people, and I know there's other folks that are doing, when you think if you only have 300 students, it should be way, way easier, right? And I think you mentioned if, let's just say you're always the lead in the drama, whatever, and if they get put in the paper every week, they don't get a postcard every week, right?
Right. It's one and done.
For the year, for the school year? For
the school year.
Yeah.
And the exception is if you make it to state.
Okay.
So if you're the star quarterback, sure, you're going to be in the paper all the time. So you get the first one. And then we hope they make it to state. Oh, and look, they did. And there's the quarterback. Then yes, for state, they get one more.
Okay.
But that's where the spreadsheet, and oh my goodness, the support staff is just phenomenal tracking that because they're keeping an eye out that, Susie already got a card. Now she's been in 2 more times, but nope, not yet.
Right.
So yeah.
Yeah. And just, even thinking about not necessarily tied to a news article, because we don't have very much news coverage where my kids go to school, but what about, just other special recognition and ways of reaching out? I just think, and especially like your superintendent, it's 4 different high schools. So it's not like they would see him every day walking down the hall. They know they have a close relationship with their principal. Well, hopefully maybe not close relationship with your principal.
No, actually, hopefully they do.
Oh, well, exactly. But hopefully it's not for the wrong reasons, but
right.
Yeah, but that's awesome. So kind of as we wrap up, Peg, what have you been most impressed with at your specific school during this last month with your school, your student, your staff, your parents, any of that? What's most impressed you? Because again, I like to lean into all the good that I see. What have you seen come out of your school district?
I think the thing that is the most impressive is just kind of a reinforcement of what I already knew, but now it's just playing out in such a large way. The importance of relationships. I mean, it's huge, and it's all the relation. It's the staff with the students, the staff with each other, and our leadership team. We've had daily check-ins with our principals and our cabinet members. Now it's easing up. Now it's 2 or 3 days a week, but the collaboration I'll just stick with the leadership team for now. The collaboration among everybody, it's phenomenal. It's easing the load. We've had meetings always once a week with these folks in a boardroom or whatever. And it's just a different dynamic when everybody's online and everybody's struggling with what about this and what about that, when they come together and it's based on a good foundation of relationships, and then take that and spread it amongst the kids.
Yeah.
the way that the staff is, their empathy and their concern, their desire for equity of what are students available to participate in, what are we doing for them going forward, how are we making sure it's equitable across the board. But just the personal connection to students has been phenomenal. We set up helplines. Our student services team, they're just amazing. Set up a helpline for each high school, whether a student wants to talk to their social worker. And think about it, you're a 16-year-old at home. You don't know who the social worker is, maybe. And if so, you don't know how to reach him or her. So we created helplines, and we put an image on our social media and on the homepage of all of our school websites and such, to give them 24/7 access to a helpline, and the phone number's slapped on the front page of the of the website and pushed out through various channels, social media, Schoology, etc. But just looking out for kids and knowing kids, and teachers knowing kids. My goodness, there was a teacher who said, again, we've been one-to-ones, we have that system going, but a teacher who connected with a student who was turning in his homework all the time, was doing all the work, despite the fact he's working 12 hours a day, this kid, because he's the only one in his household who is working right now. And the teacher connected with that student to provide support. But to know that, right? Like, that just touches my heart, the way, the personal connections that are being made. And it's not limited to people working in our system today. I heard about a retiree at one of our high schools who was concerned about our security staff. We have Andy Frayne security in all of our schools, and there's still some security staff in each school right now. A retiree from one of our high schools took it upon herself to make them masks because she wanted to be sure they were all protected. So she is making and distributing numerous masks. She doesn't even work there anymore. It doesn't matter. They're part of her family. She worked with them for years. Just because she's not there, she still cares. She still wants to help. That's what I'm loving. And the other thing that's impressed me, obviously, is even though I said, we've been one-to-one for years, it doesn't mean everybody just went home and, okay, we got the, no, there's still, so I am thoroughly impressed, as I'm sure people in other districts are, with their, and whatever they call them. We have two things we're very fortunate to have. We have instructional coaches, and we have instructional tech specialists. So the two groups together working to support teachers who, you're told, okay, Friday, see ya, okay, and Monday, don't forget, don't commit, to help them over that colossal hump and make it safe and make it manageable and make it successful. They've done just an amazing job. I'm beyond impressed with their hard work.
Yeah, it is amazing. And we're all dealing with so much on our own, right? Like your staff is having to deal with that, but they might be dealing with their own kids at home or their own spouse that's not able to work now. And there's just whole different dynamics, but what an amazing, amazing stories. And that's what schools are about. And we need to tell those stories. Just before we wrap up, what message do you want to put out to all of the people watching this in regards to people working in school PR, what you're seeing out there? We've already talked about it a little bit, but just kind of in closing, what words of wisdom, because you have lots of wisdom, would you want to share with those folks? Because it's really been tough, and I've been trying to feed into, you're doing an amazing job, what your community needs, those things. But what would you want to say, Peg?
First, you're very kind, so thank you. And that carries to my message. NSPRA and school PR professionals are kind. They're very generous. They're wildly knowledgeable and generous with that knowledge. So a couple plugs that I want to make. So first, even before COVID, I hope you were tapping into NSPRA Connect. If you're an NSPRA member, and NSPRA is the National School Public Relations Association, and a great tool on the NSPRA website for members is NSPRA Connect. And it's an online opportunity to ask a question, any question. It doesn't matter. You know, that cliche, there's no such thing as a dumb question. Well, it's a cliche because it's true, right?
Right.
Post a question, and members across North America will post responses to you and provide attached samples, you know. So I strongly encourage folks to check NSPRA Connect. Also, on the NSPRA website, there's NSPRA resources for COVID. And we've mentioned Tracy Jentz a couple times. Her materials are on there. There's a great document from the Michigan chapter of the National School PR Association and countless others. Lots of resources that are just truly a click away. You can download materials even now, even though we've been at this a few weeks now. People continue to contribute resources. So please check the NSPRA website, and it's NSPRA resources for COVID. And the other thing I would say, you talked about Twitter earlier. Really, I just so encourage folks to follow school PR professionals on Twitter. A couple of handles that you might want to check or hashtags of K-12 PR chat and hashtag school PR. The Twitter handle of Road to NSPRA is another good one to follow. There's countless, but to check those hashtags, K-12 PR chat and hashtag school PR. And if anybody's watching this and going, well, I'm not on Twitter. I have all these other social media channels. I can't be bothered with Twitter. Please call me. Because yes, I was one of the ones late to the game, but if you're not on Twitter, this is the time to do it. And if you're concerned about, all right, but I don't really know how, contact me. I've got from Klein ISD, I think it was Justin.
Yeah, Justin's
Taylor,
awesome.
Who put out that he made videos, beginner Twitter video tips to advanced. So I have those, or contact Justin at Klein ISD. Sorry, Justin. But Twitter is just quick, easy, and a wealth of information. And it will save your sanity. It is well worth it if you're not already on. And if you are on and you haven't checked things in a while, it's time to take a peek, and you'll be glad you did, because your stress level will come down.
Yeah, and lurking is learning. That's what I heard from a friend of mine. Kay Henriksen is like, lurking is learning. So you don't even have to like be tweeting. You can just consume information. And why wouldn't you want to grab great resources or great ideas? And those are really great. NSPRA membership is not, like, how much is that? Do you know offhand?
Offhand, no, I don't remember.
Okay, so just go to nspra.org, nspra.org, and you'll be able to check that out. That's a great resource. I'm a member, and that's where I've connected with a lot of people like Peg, which I got to share, one of our first selfies, Peg, together, because of course we get together and meet in real life, and it's so much fun. This is second best, we're together here on the screen. But this is awesome. This has been so helpful. Hopefully you've gotten some tips that you can take away, everybody watching. If you want to be a guest on this show, I've got a little form that I'm going to put down in the comments. And so you are going to be able to actually submit a short form. Now, there might be a little waiting list because I've got some people pegged, and we may have mentioned some of the names right here, Peg, with who we're going to be featuring going forward. But this is just a great opportunity for us to hear from each other, to learn, to grow. And the team here at Social School for EDU is here to support you. We've got a lot of great resources out on YouTube and on our blog, tons of free resources. We've got a great membership program. Peg just jumped into that. We really want to support people with ongoing online professional development. So definitely check that out as well. But we're just here to have these conversations, and these are going to happen at least once a week. And we'll be sharing them here on our Facebook page, and eventually we're going to turn this into a podcast. So I've been saying it for years. I just got to figure it out. Give me the weekend to figure out how to upload some things. We've got a lot of professionals out there, and I'm going to be watching some trainings. But just like you guys, I was once a beginner. We're all in this together, and the trick is you hang out with really people, people that are smarter than you, that have been at this longer than you, and you just become friends with them, and they share and you learn. So that is my trick, and that's my advice for you. Grab onto some of these other folks. They are the most giving, and they are willing to help wherever you're at.
Mhm.
And we'll get you in the right spot, but don't get overwhelmed. My advice too is just focus on what your community needs right now, what you need. This will all come. And then when you get all these fun ideas like senior features and Facebook profile pics and all this, just come see me. We probably got a resource on it. So thank you so much, Peg, for your time. This was really fun. It went really fast.
It did. And I really appreciate it. I told her I was nervous to do it, but it's great. It's just talking with Andrea and knowing that there's so many PR people out there, connecting with them. It's wonderful. So thank you for doing it.
Yeah. And if you like the show, and like I said, if you want to be a guest, comment below. We will see you guys all soon. Keep telling those stories. They really matter. And until next time, we'll see you later.
Bye, guys.